Hey guys, another video for the Pilots in Japan playlist. This video is probably only going to be of interest to pilots and to people who are interested in flying, and even some of those people might find it boring, so feel free to click off anytime you like. On the Pilots in Japan playlist, we talked about the radio operator's license in Japan and what was involved in that. So I actually tried the test today, went to the Nagoya Institute of Technology, which I'll be showing you as I speak. Quite a nice campus in the middle of Nagoya. So I went there today. I'll go through explaining the whole story, because the idea of this series is supposed to be for pilots who want to fly in Japan. So there's no resources on the internet. I haven't been able to find any information about this at all, so this might be the first time this test has actually been described in English. So I'll describe it from beginning to end, so if somebody is actually going to take the test, they'll know what's coming, because I had a bit of an idea what was coming, but it was different from what I was expecting. So the first thing was to go to the Nagoya Institute of Technology and to find the building and to read the sign outside the building that said where the test was being held, and then go and find the room. And there was a big room. There was about 80 people in there, 80 people sitting the test, and there was about 88 testing people. So 80 people sitting the test and 8 testing people. And the testing people were all probably at least in their 60s. Pretty much the same. I sat the law test in Tokyo University in English, the aviation law test, and it was very similar atmosphere. So 80 people sitting in the room, and then the 8 people, they all wear these armbands. In Japan, anybody who's an official at anything always wears an armband with the title of their position written on the armband. So 8 guys that would have been in their 60s all standing around with the armbands. I just got to say too, the atmosphere in these tests is really strict and very quiet and disciplined and very serious. But in Tokyo and at this test, the people were all very helpful. So they are very helpful. The atmosphere is really strict and very authoritarian, but the people that actually do the subject us to the tests are actually pretty kind and helpful. They walk up and down like a jail. They walk up and down the aisles watching. They have the 8 people spread around the room, and they're walking up and down all the time watching what you're doing and looking over your shoulder. And so it's a bit closely watched, but they are keen to help, so they're pretty good. But of course it was all 100% Japanese, everything. So I walked in, sat down, and then there was about 30 minutes of explanation from somebody explaining exactly what we were going to be doing. And he was an older guy, and he was a long way away, right at the front of the room. And older guys are really hard to understand because they tend to talk like this, and he wasn't quite loud enough, and he wasn't very clear, so it was really difficult to understand him. And it was 100% Japanese. There was a big blackboard there that had all the explanations written all over it in Japanese. The people that were coming around, sort of helping people, all speaking 100% Japanese, as you'd expect. I'm only adding this because it's important to know this if you're going to go and try and do this test. So then the first step was, after the 30 minutes of explanation, they brought around a piece of paper, and I'm not sure what it's like in other countries at universities, but at this university now, and Tokyo was the same, they give you a piece of paper and you put your name and your tester number, or the testing person number. I had a serial number that was about 8 or 9 digits long, and that was my registration number for the test, and my name, my date of birth in the Japanese calendar. And you write it, and then underneath it's got these numbers, and you have to shade in the number for everything that you write. And it's because that piece of paper gets fed into a computer or some sort of scanner at the end, and it all gets processed automatically. So it's a bit of a system, pretty complicated piece of paper. You have to mark all these things, the numbers. So you do that, and you're ready, and then they give you another piece of paper, and then they read using the Alpha Bravo Charlie alphabet, and they have a CD player right up the front of the room, and they play this CD, and you've got to write down what they're saying. So, Bravo Charlie Alpha Delta X-ray, Mike November, Bravo Charlie Alpha Tango, and it's about probably 100 or more, 110, one after another, and really fast. Bravo Charlie Echo Foxtrot Mike and Juliet Yankee, and it's really fast. It's really fast, and you have to use a pencil, and of course my pencil broke halfway through it, and the time it took to push and to get some lead out the bottom, they'd read 4 more, so I was 4 behind, and then I had to try and keep up. So ridiculous sort of thing. I mean, 24 years I've been using aviation radios on aircraft and on the ground, and never had to use more than 3 or 4 letters at a time. So 100 or 110 in a row was a bit surprising. But anyway, that's just the rule. So I'd suggest if you're going to do the test, take a couple of pencils. Don't use the press sharp pencil thing. That's useless. I would take a couple of old style pencils and have a couple of them sharpened up, they're ready to go, and if you break one, just grab another one and just keep going, because the time, it's really fast. It was really quite fast. If just listening you'd understand it, but having to write it was actually pretty fast. And so that was the first step, did that, and then they come and collect that piece of paper and take that away. And then the next one's the bigger test, and they bring 4 pages. There was 4 pages of questions, and one of them is electronics, straight out electronics, calculations of volts and amps and watts, and diagrams of capacitors and antennas and different radio systems from the aircraft, so radio systems and transponder systems and all sorts. There's one sort of technical section, and then there's a law section, communications radio law section. That was just ridiculous. That was just the kanji. There was a million kanji there I've never seen before. So that was probably a good time to mention I failed it for sure. Haven't got the result. It'll take another 3 weeks to get the result, but there's no way. There's no way. Probably the electronics part might have been okay, but the law bit that was about a good third of the questions was just ridiculous. Just really intense kanji, and it's all kanji that you never use. It's all radio, technical, law. I showed it to some Japanese friends, and they were all shaking their heads and scratching their heads and dear oh dear. I showed you in the last video. I showed you some of it, the sample page, and it was as bad as that or worse. So 4 or 5 pages of that, and it's the same thing. You can sit there, and it's multiple choice, and you can sit there and mark your choice on that piece of paper, and then you have to go back to your main piece of paper, and it's got 1 to 28, and then you have to put the A, B, C, D thing by shading in the little box, and you have to be really careful, shade the box totally in, because that's going to get fed in the computer, and if you haven't shaded it properly, it won't accept it. So yeah, that was a fairly intense hour or so, and then got through that, and then they took us off to another room for one-on-one, and they give you a piece of paper, and you have to say, you look at it, and it's got sets of 6 or 7 letters, and you have to say to them the radio alphabet. So it'll say, you look there and it's got B, C, D, A, F, G, and you've got to sit there and say Bravo Charlie, Echo Delta Foxtrot, whatever it is, Golf, Yankee. There's sets of them, and they sit there with a stopwatch, and you actually have to say, I'm doing it for real, begin, bang, and then you go and you do it, and you sit there and you go through them, and again there'd be 100, 110 of them, and you have to sit there and go through them all. That's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It's just you've got to do it reasonably quickly, get to the end, and the guy sits there with a stopwatch and click. Then you've got to do it with a certain amount of time. So I'm sure I passed that bit. That was easy. That's the easiest bit. That was the easiest bit of the test. That and the first bit with listening it and writing it down. If you didn't have a breaking pencil, that's pretty straightforward as well. But the rest of it is just outrageous. So that was the entire process, and it's doable. It is doable. I'll have another shot. There's another one in six months or something, 7 months. There's another one. So in the meantime, as I've already mentioned in the other videos, I can fly pilot and command and use the radio as long as someone in the aircraft has got a radio operator's license, even if they're sitting in the back seat. So it's just a bit of a pain. It means that any time we go flying, we have to make sure we take another pilot or someone else who's got a radio operator's license, and sit them in the back seat, which is a bit of a pain. So another 6 or 7 months, that test comes around again, and we'll go and have another go at it. So in the meantime, just study some more kanji and try and remember. But it's really difficult. It really is difficult. I did pretty good preparation for it and had some of the previous tests to practice, but there was questions I'd never seen before, which meant kanji I'd never seen before. I was like, what's that? And you can read some that says radio, that says controller, that says air traffic controller, that says, transponder, that says something else, but I don't know what the rest of it says. And look at the multiple choice answers, and I'm not quite sure what they're saying either. So it's not. The only other way to do it is there's a course in Tokyo that goes for a week. And I think it costs about $4,000 or something outrageous like that. It's really expensive, and it's usually only for people that work for airlines. And it goes for a week, or close to a week, or a few to 5 days or something. And they actually teach you all the stuff first, so all the electronic stuff and the radio stuff and all the rest of the technical stuff and the law stuff. They teach it all to you first, and at the end of it they give you a test, which in English, which means you're pretty well going to pass. But it's going to cost, I think it's about $4,000 plus 5 days in Tokyo, which isn't cheap either. So that's another option, but it depends. Depends on how keen you are, I guess, to have the license. How important it is to be able to have the license and go fly without someone in the back seat. So, or I just keep trying this standard test. This cost about 5,000, 6,000 yen today. So it's about $60 or $70, and a day. It was a day travel there and be there early and do the thing and come back. Was round trip was about 5 hours or 6 hours or something. So you can do that every 6 months till you get it. Might never get it. It's possible never pass this. It's really full on. So anyway, there it is. If you want to try it, there's at least a bit of preparation for you, so you know what to expect. So there it was. I'll let you know what happens in 6 months' time next time we try it again. More videos coming soon.